The 1.4 version livestream dropped recently, so let's talk about Topaz and Numby. Topaz is a fire character, following the path of the hunt. However, she isn't your usual hunt DPS character, where you need to focus on a hyper carry build and team setup. She's actually the most versatile hunt character we know of currently. Topaz can function as both a DPS hyper carry and a sub DPS buffer. Her main niche is to buff follow-up attacks. However, her own kit turns her basic attack into a follow-up attack, so she actually buffs herself and her teammates. So, let's start with her best team comps. Firstly, let's just get this out the way. Yes, Topaz buffs Jingliu, which means he's actually usable again. Wow. The combination of Topaz being added to the game alongside a new follow-up attack focused relic set in 1.5, Jingliu will actually get a lot better than he currently is. A good team setup for him is Jingliu, Topaz, Tingyun, and a sustain in your last slot. For the other follow-up attackers, Himiko is a decent option, but only really in a mono fire team with Asta. Herta is just bad, she isn't really the best to use. Yanqing is fine, Topaz can help him a good amount. Blade can be used, although his kit isn't entirely focused on follow-up attacks. It's just Blade's a broken character in general, so he will be stronger with her. However, Clara is her best teammate by a good amount. Clara has very good synergy with Topaz, as most of her damage comes from her follow-up attacks, alongside her skill point efficiency. But besides being a sub DPS buffer, she also has an incredible amount of personal damage, which isn't really a surprise considering she's a hunt. A Topaz hypercarry team is actually very strong compared to follow-up focused teams, almost performing as well as Sela teams. An example would be Topaz, Tingyun, Asta, and a sustain. You could also trade one of those Harmony characters for a debuffer. Since Topaz doesn't fit specifically into a niche as of now, building her isn't as straightforward as others. She does not have a 4-piece best in slot at the moment, but it is speculated that a new relic set will be released in 1.5. This will most likely be her best option. But for as of now, a 2-piece Firesmith, 2-piece Musketeer is generally her best option since it provides both attack percent and fire damage. In terms of planar ornaments, Inert Salsado is her best 2-piece by a decent amount, but when the new Simulated Universe world comes out in 1.5, the new planar ornament set will most likely be her best in slot. As for the main stats, a crit body is best, whatever gets you closer to a 1-2 crit ratio, attack percent or speed poots depending on her teammates and substats, a fire damage orb, and an attack percent rope. Her substat priorities should always be crit first, then attack percent, and then speed if you need it. Now finally onto her best light cones. As usual, her best in slot is her signature light cone, Worrisome Blissful, that will run alongside her character banner. But for her 4-star gacha options, Swordplay at S3 or higher is her second best choice, even above Herta's Stellar the Cruising Sea at S5. However, if you don't have at least 4 copies of Swordplay, then Stellar the Cruising Sea at S5 will be her next best choice. If you have none of those, or they're on other characters, then only Silence Remains, Return to Darkness, and Subscribe for More are all usable at S1, and if you have literally none of these weapons, then the only 3-star option that does something is Darting Arrow. So, that's everything to prepare for on Topaz's release. She'll be released second half of 1.4, alongside Sela's rerun banner, so that leaves 21 days without the new sets, but it's still good to pre-farm for her if you want to use her. Topaz and Numby are definitely one of the most valuable characters to pull for, but I'm still pulling Jingliu.